What would you do if you discovered your wife cheating on you in the most unexpected place imaginable? Today, I'm going to tell you a story that will make you question everything you think you know about trust and betrayal. This actually happened to an ordinary Uber driver in Chicago. And trust me, you need to hear this story from beginning to end because the twist will blow your mind. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that make you think about life differently, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because we bring you the most incredible real-life stories every day. Mike had been driving for Uber for 3 years, working the night shift to make ends meet while his wife, Sarah, worked during the day as a marketing coordinator. They had been married for 7 years and had what everyone considered a solid relationship. Mike thought he knew his wife inside and out, but he was about to discover just how wrong he could be. On this particular Tuesday in November, Mike was cruising around downtown Chicago around 11 p.m. when he received a ride request from a fancy hotel. The pickup location was the Grand Plaza, one of those upscale places where business travelers and wealthy tourists stay when they visit the city. As Mike pulled into the hotel lobby, he noticed 2 figures emerging from the lobby, walking together in a way that immediately caught his attention. The woman was wearing an expensive-looking red dress, and the man beside her had his arm around her waist in an intimate gesture that suggested they were more than just friends. Mike couldn't see their faces clearly in the dim light, but something about the woman's silhouette seemed strangely familiar. He shook off the strange feeling and focused on his work, thinking his mind was just playing tricks on him after a long day. The couple approached the car and climbed into the back seat without saying much beyond a discreet good night and an address in the suburbs. Mike recognized the neighborhood immediately because it was only about 15 minutes from his own home. As he began driving, he kept sneaking glances in the rearview mirror, trying to get a better look at the passengers. The woman sat on the right side, partially hidden in the shadows, while the man checked his phone. They were whispering to each other in voices so low that Mike couldn't make out the words, but their body language spoke volumes about their relationship. About halfway there, Mike stopped at a red light and adjusted his rearview mirror for a clearer view. What he saw in that moment changed his life forever. The woman turned slightly toward the window, and the streetlight illuminated her face enough for Mike to recognize her features. His heart skipped a beat for what seemed like an eternity. The woman in the back seat of his car, wearing a dress he'd never seen before, sitting intimately close to a stranger, was Sarah, his wife of 7 years. If you're thinking this story couldn't get any crazier, you're absolutely wrong. So make sure you stick with me until the end, because what happens next will shock you even more than what you've already heard. Mike's hands began to shake as he gripped the steering wheel, trying to process what he was seeing. His mind raced through 1,000 different explanations, desperately searching for some innocent reason why his wife would be in his Uber at 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night with another man. Maybe it was a coworker. Maybe there was some perfectly reasonable explanation he wasn't seeing. But deep down, Mike knew exactly what he was looking at, and the truth was crushing him from the inside out. The traffic light turned green, and Mike had to make a split-second decision that would determine how this nightmare scenario would unfold. He could confront them right there in the car, he could pretend he hadn't recognized Sarah and keep driving to maintain his cover, or he could find some other way to deal with the situation. Mike chose to keep driving, but his mind was spinning with anger, pain, and disbelief. Every few seconds, he would glance in the mirror and see Sarah giggling softly at something the man was saying, completely unaware that her husband was the one driving them to their destination. As they approached the address, Mike realized they were heading to a residential area he knew well. The house number they'd given belonged to a quiet street lined with modest family homes, the kind of neighborhood where people minded their own business and rarely caused trouble. Mike's heart was pounding so hard he was sure his passengers could hear it, but Sarah and her companion seemed lost in their own world, completely oblivious to the drama unfolding just a meter away. When they finally arrived at their destination, Mike watched in the rearview mirror as the man handed Sarah the keys to what was apparently his house. She kissed him on the cheek in a way that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Mike sat frozen in the driver's seat, watching his wife of 7 years walk hand in hand with another man toward a house that clearly wasn't the first time she'd visited. But this is where this story takes a turn no one could have predicted, and I guarantee you won't see it coming. If you're interested in finding out what Mike does next, give him a thumbs up because this next part is absolutely insane. Mike waited until Sarah and the man disappeared into the house before allowing himself to break down. He sat in the car for 20 minutes, crying and trying to figure out what to do with this information. Should he drive home and pretend nothing had happened? Should he confront Sarah immediately? Should he gather more evidence before making any decisions? Mike had never been in a situation like this before, and every option seemed to lead to the destruction of everything he thought he knew about his life. Finally, Mike made a decision that surprised even him. Instead of driving home or confronting Sarah, he decided to park across the street and wait. He turned off his Uber app and settled in for what turned out to be the longest night of his life. Mike wanted to see how long Sarah planned to stay, what time she would leave, and how she planned to get home without him knowing where she had been. He needed to understand the full scope of what was happening before deciding how to respond. Hours passed, and Mike sat in the car watching the house where his wife was betraying their marriage. Around 3 a.m., he saw lights starting to go out inside, and he braced himself for Sarah to show up. But what happened next was something Mike never could have anticipated, and it's why this story spread like wildfire across social media. Instead of Sarah leaving the house alone or with the man, Mike watched as 3 different people emerged from the front door. Sarah, the man from the hotel, and a woman Mike had never seen before. The 3 stood on the front porch talking for several minutes before the unknown woman hugged both Sarah and the man goodbye. Then Sarah and the man got into a car parked in the driveway and drove away together, leaving Mike to follow if he wanted to see where this night would ultimately end. The ensuing chase took Mike through parts of the city he'd never seen before, and what he discovered at their final destination revealed a secret Sarah had been keeping for over 2 years. If you want to know what Mike discovered and how this incredible story ends, make sure you're subscribed to this channel because the conclusion will leave you speechless. Leave a comment below telling me what you think Mike should do in this situation, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to never miss our latest stories. Mike followed Sarah and her companion to a small apartment complex on the other side of town. He watched them enter together, and this time Mike decided to get out of the car and investigate further. What he discovered when he peered through the apartment windows was the final piece of a puzzle that completely changed everything he thought he knew about his marriage, his wife, and his entire life. The truth was more complicated, more shocking, and more heartbreaking than anything Mike could have imagined when he first recognized Sarah in his rearview mirror. But that's a story for tomorrow's video, so make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because you absolutely cannot miss the conclusion of this incredible true story that proves that reality is always stranger than fiction.